Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy Heroes. We are back with a talk video, and this is the latest iteration of the quarterly speculation video that we do every 3 months. We look back at what just happened and look forward at the Lucasfilm schedule and make some predictions so that we can prepare our rosters in advance, go to where the ball is going. And I'm happy to say, since the last time we did this, we have a few meaningful wins we can recognize. In the past, the focus has been primarily on what characters I think are coming to the game. Structurally, it's been mostly an information dump. But now that this series is maturing, I think we can take this to a new level and start subdividing a little bit more, categorizing what this talk covers. We're going to cover the successful speculations, the characters I think have a chance to come this quarter. We're going to add which Omicrons are at an increased possibility and which characters and ships I think are worth preparing in advance because of what I think might be happening over the next 3 months. This is Disney's Lucasfilm and Marvel schedule for 2022. I like to look at both because they stagger the releases, and looking at both gives us an idea for where the blank spots are within the schedule. Although at this point, most of the major releases have an official date, except for, I'm not sure if Willow is locked in or the Guardians Holiday Special, but the rest of the pieces are there. Now we have Andor and Bad Batch at the end of the quarter, and Bad Batch is going to bring us through most of the final quarter of the year. But CG has not tackled Book of Boba Fett content yet, and the Kenobi series hasn't really been touched upon, although they did anticipate the release of Kenobi with the addition of the Inquisitor faction. And with Andor, a similar thing has been going on so far, with an additional Rogue One character being added to the game with Admiral Raddus, and there's likely going to be the Profundity coming up, which has some Rogue One tie-in there. Probably not going to directly tie into the Andor series, but having that Rogue One stuff is going to function in a similar lead-in way like we saw with the Inquisitors and Kenobi. In terms of reading the tea leaves from the schedule, it's been 7 months. It's time for Book of Boba Fett content to be added to the game. It is too soon for Kenobi. I think the tie-in stuff that we've been seeing is done for the foreseeable future. Maybe near the end of next quarter, we will start seeing additional Inquisitors or other characters from that series. Andor, we won't be seeing anything specific from Andor, but additional Rogue One tie-in characters, certainly possible. We will be speculating on those. And for the rest of the schedule, Bad Batch, we'll be seeing that at another time. I think that's something where CG has had a lot of participation with Lucasfilm. We had Omega was anticipated, and they had clearly coordinated with Lucasfilm to add her to the game. I think we will be seeing that stuff happening during the Bad Batch releases, but that will be during next quarter. So that'll be in the next quarterly speculation video. So I'll largely be skipping any Bad Batch speculation. The first of our wins from the past 3 months are Tuskens. For a couple quarters now, I have been saying that they are a very likely faction to see some changes because of Mando Season 1 and Season 2, because of Book of Boba Fett. And it was clear, even before a trailer was released, that we were going to see something happen with the Tuskens because of Book of Boba Fett, even if it was just Tusken Boba. But Tusken Warrior, I was saying, was going to be a possibility, and some sort of rework or touch-up to the Tusken Raider. And what we got was an Omicron to give some nice 3v3 viability to the Tusken Raider. This is a very solid Omicron. I put it on right away. It's a niche one because of 3v3, but it's completely usable at Gear 11, and it's useful on offense and defense, capable of beating relics on offense and on defense, getting holds at that Gear 11 level. And I think it is a candidate to be expanded to 5v5 usage if we see 2 additional Tuskens in the future, and I still think that is possible. But I don't think we're going to see a complete set of 5 this quarter, although I do think we might see an additional Tusken that will make this Omicron better. For at least the past 2 quarters, I've been saying Admiral Raddus was on his way to the game when we finally got him this past month, and it's because he was the major puzzle piece required in order to make the profundity happen. Because of the fleet changes in Grand Arena, it was necessary that we got additional capital ships, and the best way to make new fleets in Grand Arena was to split up existing fleets, the Rebel fleet being one of the easiest ones to accommodate that split. And one of the most natural capital ships to add to the game is the Profundity, which made Admiral Raddus a natural prediction. Moving on to the predictions, I don't think the Profundity is going to be a conquest unlock, as I've seen some members of the community speculate on. I think capital ships require more time, energy, and resources to get to those 7 stars. But we do need additional Rebel ships to pair with it. The Falcon, Outrider, and Y-Wing are a great starting point for the fleet, but it's going to need more, and that's where I think the conquest unlocks are going to come in. Red 5, Luke's X-Wing, I think is the better candidate for a conquest unlock. I was hoping for an X-Wing squadron with Biggs and Wedge, but they're going to be with Katarn. It's possible Red 5 could stay with the home one, but I don't think they're going to be adding additional ships in that location. At least that's not where I would be betting. It is possible, though, that we could be seeing the B-Wing as a Galactic Chase release or the A-Wing. Those are 2 iconic ships that we still don't have in the game, and it's time that we see them. Sticking with ships, I think it's time we finally see the Ravager. This isn't one I've talked about too much in the past, even though this has long been speculated on by the community. It was even part of a supposed leak over a year ago that could have been faked. This is just one of the capital ships that makes the most sense with where the game is right now. There's a bunch of tie-ins with Star Wars The Old Republic, with Sortie and Melgus. It looks like there's more Old Republic content on its way. In terms of where existing fleets stand right now, the Sith Fleet is one of the more natural fleets that could be added. Only so many capital ships make any sense at all. That's why Profundity was one that made a lot of sense. But in terms of the Sith Fleet, there's long been a number of Sith ships within the game. They've just never been all that usable, and CG is not one to leave untapped ships and characters in the game. They find a way to make everything useful so that we keep grinding on gear and resources. The Ravager would finally unlock the Sith Fighter and the Sith Bomber, and likely would make the Scimitar useful. I think TIE Advanced and Emperor Shuttle, they're going to stick with an Empire fleet. They work very naturally there right now. I don't see how they would weaken that fleet in order to make the Ravager function. But what I do think we would see is the Sith Interceptor. This ship even has a Lego that has Melgus in the set. Very possible that this ship gets added with Melgus as a pilot. So this is one of the areas I would start paying a lot of attention to if you've been slow on. I don't know the Sith Empire or the Old Republic particularly well, but from the interview that occurred with the developers when Melgus was announced, they did hint at additional Sith, Empire, or Old Republic characters being added to the game, and there was a data mine which showed future marquee releases that I don't think have all been accounted for. Radis may have taken one of them, but I think there is still one out there on the horizon. And now for the Book of Boba Fett content. We've waited long enough. It's been 7 months. It's time to give us Chrysanthemum. I need a new tank for the bounty hunters. This character's awesome. I'm hoping for some Wookiee tie-ins. We have a number of Wookiee characters within the game. There's a lot of room to have fun here with this character, and I want someone to unlock the potential of Scion of Django and Fennec. There's a number of things happening within that kit where it looks like just things are missing, and I think Book of Boba Fett content will fill in those missing pieces. Like Chrysanthemum, Bib Fortuna has also been on a couple of these quarterly speculation videos. He's a character who is iconic from the movies. He's been in Bad Batch. He's been in Book of Boba Fett. He was at the end of the Mando Season 2 Book of Boba Fett teaser. We have Bad Batch on the way. Bib Fortuna needs to be added to the game, although I think there's a chance they might wait for him during the Bad Batch releases in Q4, just because he could show up in that series. I alluded to this with the Tusken Ami portion of the video, but while I don't think we're going to see a full squad of 5 for the Tuskens, I do think we could see Tusken Warrior to give us an alternate option in a 3v3 squad and make them more dangerous, with either Aurora or Shaman being the candidate to get removed, and create a little bit more synergy either with the turn meter movement or with the dots. Cobb Vanth is another character at that Chrysanthemum level of desirability that could get a lot of players reinvigorated into the game, and he is a natural candidate to boost a Beskar Mando squad, which right now has a lot of pretty good options to be paired with, but no decisive options, and it would be nice to bring Beskar Mando to a more dangerous level by adding a character like Cobb Vanth to it. Paz Vizsla is another one of those characters that has been almost permanently on this speculation list, but with Book of Boba Fett, they really elevated his importance to the recent Filoni Favreau series, so it makes it much easier for him to be added to the game. Book of Boba Fett really changed how valuable and interesting of a character he is for that Mando Star Wars lore. I want to cap off the Book of Boba Fett portion of this video by acknowledging the Gamorrean Guards, because they've had a permanent home in this series since its inception, but I want to talk more about them during the Omicron portion of the video in a little bit. Right now, I want to transition to an Andor period. And while I don't think we're going to get Andor related content in this quarter, what I've said in the past is there's usually a 3 to 6 month delay between a show or movie and character releases, unless there is Lucasfilm coordination, which is usually pretty rare. It's been Bad Batch and Solo and Rogue One, basically. So while it's possible, what I think is more likely is what we saw with Inquisitors and Kenobi, where characters that can be anticipated on will be added to the game, and Saw Gerrera can be anticipated, or at least his relevancy, like Radis, can be added to the game, as we can hit on a couple Rogue One characters, and Saw Gerrera is deserving to be in the game. And because of his appearances in Bad Batch, in Clone Wars, and notably in Fallen Order, Saw Gerrera, it's his time. And he's a character where Radis is missing something. Radis is good. You can do plenty with him right now, but he's not great. Jin deserves to be there. Cassian deserves to be there. Maybe Chirrut. But the rest of the team, Chirrut is a little questionable, and that 5th spot there's no great candidate. Saw Gerrera could be the character to fill in that squad and bring Radis to an even higher level. Almost like where we got a Mon Mothma squad. It was fine and pretty good. Kyle Katarn elevates it. Maybe we see a similar thing happen on a shorter timeline here with Saw Gerrera. And now I want to do something new for this series, which is speculate on the Omicrons I think that could be added to the game, and to speculate on characters that are already in-game that I think are worthy of throwing resources at to take advantage of some of the changes that we could be seeing over the next 3 months. Cad Bane is the first of the characters that I think may be getting an Omicron this quarter. One of the things CG likes to do is reward our investments towards big projects like Galactic Legends, or in this case, the Executor. Those types of lesser used characters within squad battles tend to get rewarded with those Amis. Cad Bane has also been receiving a lot of extra attention lately with Bad Batch and with Book of Boba Fett. All of that added prominence makes him an all the more deserving candidate for added viability to the game. Unfortunately, with Embo having a Territory War Ami and Zam having a Grand Arena Ami, I don't know if he's going to have an Omicron that we're all going to want to put on. As I said a moment ago, Gamorrean Guard has been in every version of this video, and for a long time I thought he needed a massive overhaul. But I think these days an Omicron is a much more likely way of adding increased viability. It'll probably be more like an extra ability and an Omicron. He needs so much more. But what CG likes to do is these characters that are hard to farm, like the Gamorrean Guard is out of the guild store, to make those characters have a utility in the game. We just saw Jyn see increased utility with her synergy with Radis. I think we see a similar thing happen with Scion of Django and possibly Fennec, where a Omicron or rework to the character makes it that squad becomes a definitive and usable and dangerous squad, a go-to squad. The other characters I think we can be seeing Omicrons for this quarter, young Han Solo. We have a lot of pairs within Omicrons. We have Embo and Zam, First Order TIE Pilot and Phasma. One gets a Grand Arena Omicron, one gets a Territory War Omicron. Right now we have Dash with a Grand Arena Omicron. I think a character like Young Han is a character who could get that Territory War Omicron for a smuggler squad to make them that much more difficult to deal with. And I think it would be Young Han because Young Han is the guild store farm. He's the slower farm. Vet Smuggler Chewie. Not a lot of the Resistance characters have Omicrons right now. It's basically just Rose, and the Vets are the two characters I think are the next likeliest candidate. I'm just going to have Vet Chewie here, but Vet Han could also be the one. But I'm hoping it's Chewie because I think there's room for Chrysanthemum Wookiee synergy, and I would like it if CG took advantage of it. Cody is the next one. This is going to be a territory battle Omicron. That GK special mission with Cody is a problem. I'm not even sure what relic level or if anyone is beating it. I have not paid enough attention to it. It's not something I'm too concerned about, but an Omicron on Cody would finally unlock that thing and also take advantage of the fact that we all had to relic him in order to get JMK. Now I want to highlight several characters that are worth working on in advance if your roster is sufficiently mature to start working on some speculative luxury things. I would not do this if you are a newer or smaller account. We should though, mention Gamorrean Guard is one of those characters worth working on right now because of the Book of Boba Fett tie-in possibilities. I think he's very likely to become good this quarter. Sith Assassin, because of Melgus, the Sith Empire possibilities. I think there's an additional Sith Empire character who could come in and make a newer squad that would use the Sith Assassin. Sith Assassin is also pretty annoying to gear type of character CG would try to encourage us to spend resources on, and also because of the Sith Fighter. The Ravager would unlock it, and I think, as I've already said at the beginning of the video, that is something I think will be happening sooner than later. I think we see the Profundity and the Ravager happen as a pair. Which also means if you have not farmed the Sith Bomber, it is time to farm the Sith Bomber. It's on the same node as Fennec, so it's a great node regardless. And if you're done with Fennec, just keep hitting that node until you get done with the Bomber. Cassian, the Andor series is coming. I think that Radis squad continues to improve, and if there is an additional character like Saw Gerrera, there could be synergies within that kit that make Cassian much better. I don't think we get an additional Andor. I think we see this Andor get much better. We have reached the point where the Phoenix probably deserve to be geared, so all of you players who spent a lot of resources on the Phoenix get to see that investment paid off. These characters are a nightmare to gear. I'm glad I waited as long as I did, but now because of the Raven's Claw and the Profundity, they are going to see new life. And we know from the Ahsoka trailer that they're going to be in that series, which means there's likely going to be a lot of added attention to this faction for CG to encourage us to spend all of those resources on these characters. It's probably just because I'm hoping Chrysanthemum has some sort of Wookiee synergy and we get a Wookiee tag. But Clone Wars Chewie has always had some interesting fringe utility. Something could happen where CG brings that to another level and encourages us to build up this character. He's someone I might be throwing some resources after I get through the Phoenix and a couple other characters. I was going to do some free-to-play gearing because that's what I usually do at the end of these videos, but this one's long enough, so I'm just going to throw it into the next talk video, which I'm expecting that we are going to need in response to some news in the next day or so anyway. And also as part of the talk video that I put a little promotion for celebrating hitting 1,000 subscribers, I've got another talk video that is due near the end of this week, start of next week anyway. So if you want to know more about it, check out that video. But thank you for watching. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.